All right, Big Bang. Today's Tuesday. It's March 28th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. As always, I'm joined with Chief. Today, actually, we are bringing it to you from Zoom. The guys are at home. You're seeing a weird background. Chief just has the glare of God just shining at all of us. Nobody can see his face.
I
I don't
need
know
I
if
need that I need that natural sunlight.
you think it's
Uh,
this guy's first Zoom call.
Yeah, got addicted to it out in Arizona. So the boy that's why we're on Zoom. The boys are dragging ass. We had a I don't even know what
We
time that was
just
like.
landed recently. We had a 7
Yeah,
a.m. flight. It was just chaos. So everyone's like,
yeah,
if we sound like the two dumbest people alive today, that's why. But hey, we're gonna power through, and we're actually no, we're gonna give it a good episode. I mean, we plan on that anyways, but there just
yeah.
might be a little, some dummy moments sprinkled in.
What else is new?
Yeah, that's true. That's true
Yeah.
too.
Um, but yeah, I think we were averaging about like 3 hours of sleep for the
Yeah.
last 4 days. So
Hmm.
well, yeah, we're under the weather a little bit, but we'll get it done.
Exactly. All right then. So what are we dipping into?
We're sticking with the kind of Arizona Southwest theme. We'll talk about the Hopi Indians because they got some weird woo woo like prophecy shit. Like you heard of Nostradamus,
Yep, I
where
have.
he like I don't know what a quatrain is, but he's famous for writing all these like quatrains where he would have these kind of predictions about the future. And I think he like predicted Napoleon and Hitler and all these things would come true. Um, Well, the Hopi Indians, which are in like northwest Arizona, kind of like that by that Four Corners area where like Colorado, I think it's Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona all kind of connect. They're from up in that area. And they have prophecy shit too. They're also, if you're a if you're an Ancient Aliens guy, you know about the Hopi Indians because they got all that kind of stuff. So we're going back to that well, kind of. We've talked about things like this in the past, and now with just being in Arizona, it was top of mind, so we figured we'd bang that drum one more time.
Yeah, but it's Baby Vanga. That's a pretty
Baba,
famous episode.
Baba Vanga,
Baba Vanga, not baby.
Baba Vanga,
Sorry.
yeah, the blind Hungarian like witch lady who
Yeah,
predicted a ton of shit too.
yeah. I
Like she
still
predicted
that
like 9/11.
Yeah, she predicted a
Yeah,
ton of shit. That was an
yeah,
early episode too. That was 2019, but that's
yeah,
one of those that had some staying power because I still feel like people will still tag us in tweets about Baba Vanga or just like bring
yeah.
it up to us, right?
Right. I think she died in like 1984 and had predicted like 9/11 and the Iraq War, I think something like that. So and a whole list of other things too.
Hmm.
But the Hopi Indians, they've been around forever, and they have this like kind of it's a weird like mysterious thing because it's like they're on a reservation, but it's this protected area, and they don't let people in there. Like they don't let people into these specific caves and these specific parts of their land. Like it's only for tribal members only. There's like a whole like initiation process. I think they might have had like a camera crew, like kind of like Discovery Channel thing, like go through, but then you get up to a certain point and they're like, no, like from this point forward, like only Hopi Indian people allowed. So it's always been this mysterious thing, but they talk about how we have these different eras or different worlds, and they say that we're in the fourth world right now, and we're at the end of the fourth world, and we're about to emerge into the fifth world. And every time we pass from the first world to the second world, there's like a cataclysm that signals a change in the guard. And they always reference these star people, that these star people come down, and then they at the beginning and the end of every age, to kind of like restart the world. And that's what we're going to get into here. So
Where in Arizona are they located?
that's our first dumb brain moment. I said that like maybe a minute ago.
Oh, you did. All right. My
Yeah,
apologies. My
yeah.
apologies.
Uh, up in the Four Corners where it's like Colorado,
Oh
Arizona,
yeah, I just
New
went.
Mexico.
Four Corners didn't register to me.
Okay, yeah. So like northeast Arizona. So like
Okay,
up by
gotcha.
Colorado,
Like
Utah,
the
New Mexico.
Flagstaff stuff, right?
Yeah, I think east of Flagstaff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That would have registered four corners. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I don't a lot of four
Well,
corners
like
things.
it makes like a right angle. That's why they call it that.
Yeah, it's like you could like stand in all four states at one time
Yeah,
or something, right?
yeah. Like what's the game where you have like all the dots on the ground and you're
Four
like,
square.
no. It's like a blue dot, green dot, yellow dot, like right hand, blue, left hand, doesn't
Oh,
matter.
Twister.
Twister, yeah, Twister.
Yeah.
Second thumb brain moment. Um, but yeah, so then they talk about like the first world, they had these people around, and then it was destroyed, and then people went and lived underground, and for the second world and like lived as ants. That's like what the prophecy is. Then they or the their origin story. Then they have the third world, and they said the third world, and listen, these are like old ancient that they've been passing this down the same story thousands of years. They've been we've known about it for I don't know 300 years or whenever we went out to Arizona for the first time, and it was written in a book. They had a Hopi Indian elder named Whitefeather kind of like described it earlier part of this century. But then the third world said advanced civilization with flying shields, and there were wars between cities all over the world. And then that world was ultimately destroyed by terrible floods. And when they get into like the nitty gritty details, sounds exactly like Atlantis, sounds exactly like Epic of Gilgamesh, Noah's Ark. The Babylonian has like the same sort of story, like Babylonia, which is like, Iraq, like ancient Iraq. They have a story that is like the exact same story as the Hopi Indians. It's like, it's fucking bizarre that how similar those two stories are, separated by oceans and continents and thousands of years, and they come up with like the same stories. Fucking crazy. And so then after that great flood, like the fourth world emerged, and that's the one that we're in now. And they have this prophecy called the Blue Star Cochina. So like I had never heard that word until like the Coyotes started calling like their jersey, the Cochina jersey. But they said when the Blue Star Cochina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. And they talk about their leading up to that, there will be 9 signs that were at the end. And this is where it gets like, oh fuck, like kind of Baba Vanga, um, um, the French guy,
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus. You're gonna
Yeah.
call him Socrates. We are struggling. So here are the 9 signs. You ready? Number 1, the coming of the white-skinned man. Okay, so they talk about, again, like the Aztecs had a similar thing where they said that's why they kind of almost allowed the Spaniards in, is because they had this prophecy of a light-skinned man coming across the sea, that they was part of their religion. And the Hopi had a similar story. And they said there would be a coming of the white-skinned man to their lands. Those men would take lands that weren't theirs, and they would strike enemies with thunder. So strike enemies with like white people with guns. That's what that sounds like to me. Okay. So that was their first sign. Second sign, spinning wheels rolling across the land filled with voices. And people say that that's like Oregon Trail, like these wagon wheels, and just like people inside of them, the covered wagons going across the West. Then the third sign, a strange beast like the buffalo, but with great long horns, will overrun the land in large numbers. That's the American cattle industry. Okay. So that's like verbatim. That's like, or not verbatim, but that's to me, that's 3 for 3. Prophecy number 4 talked about lands that would be crossed with snakes of iron. That's the railway system. So if you're doing the transcontinental railroad and you see, well, what the fuck is this thing? And it's just train tracks going all across the country. Then they said that the 6th sign was that the land would be covered by rivers of stone. Shout out our guy Dwight Eisenhower. He made that the American highway system. That could be like a river of stone. It's just, concrete. And if you're like an ancient person, how the fuck would you describe a highway? If you don't know what it is, like you've never seen a highway, you've never seen concrete, but it's just something that's, hard as a rock and moves across the land kind of like a river. That's pretty good description. Rivers of stone crossing the country. What?
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like poetic in a way. Then the seventh sign was that you will hear of the sea turning black and many things dying because of it. I mean, that sounds like oil spills to me. So if again, like they don't have any concept of combustion engines or petrochemicals or mining or anything like that. So it's like when you have these, Valdez or the one in the Gulf, like, and you hear about the sea turning black with oil, black, and it's like, well, that's got to be oil. And then like we just in general, that's probably like, it probably should be like the number one environmental issue is how like we just fuck up the oceans so badly. And and all these species are going extinct, like the corals dying all over the place. But again, like another prophecy before they knew what an oil spill was, it's just like, well, the oceans are going to turn black. And then they have in many instances. And then they talk about, it almost sounds like they're referencing like the hippie movement, but it said the youths will wear their hair long, like our people. So it's like the white people come, and then we always have like the short hair, and then they just prophesized that they would eventually end up like returning to values similar to the Hopi people and like wearing their hair long. And I guess you can make that one to me is like the biggest leap, but that is like a thing. Like people definitely more men than ever probably wear their hair long than they used to in this country. And then the ninth sign. So they're basically, if you go through the first eight have basically come true. And the ninth one is the big one. The ninth one says, you will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens that shall fall with a great crash, and that will appear as a blue star. So blue star, I don't know. Okay. But sure is a lot of shit talking going on about UFOs and all these things that maybe that's the dwelling place. All these aliens, the star people. Maybe that's like a fucking spaceship. And we keep hearing about UFOs, but no one really ever tracks anything down. And it will come with a great crash. Maybe that, who knows what that could be? This is like, you start getting into like Strauss house shit too, where it's like, could that be a nuclear bomb? Could that be, but it says it's coming from a dwelling place, and the dwelling place, if you're in outer space, if you're dwelling in the heavens, it makes me think like it's aliens, or the star people that they always reference. And when that comes down with the big crash, that's that blue star Cochina, and that will be the end of the fourth world. And we go into then we go into the fifth world, which who knows what that would be. Maybe it's fucking ant people again. I don't know. What do you think of that?
World.
Yeah. So it just like we're starting over from scratch, like we're just starting over. And so if there was a world that was advanced civilization was flying shields, and all that was left of that was like the pyramids, okay, or some shit like that, those people get all wiped away. And that's like one of my other favorite facts. I feel like I've said it on here before, but like it comes from that like it's that old History Channel show that if people disappeared like that, like not any wars or anything, but just like they just left the planet, how long it would take for nature to kind of reclaim the earth. And it's basically like in 10 years, like a lot of your infrastructure, like your bridges, a lot of your buildings would collapse. In like 100 years, you would still see like metals and stuff, but a lot of it's just like like the rusting would be so intense that like if you have like a parked car, I think it's something like, and you just left it out for like 100 something years in a place where there's weather, the car will be like completely disintegrated. It'll just be gone. Be
Crazy.
crazy, right? Because it's the
Yeah.
snow, the wind, and it's just the air. It just gets corroded and breaks. Eventually, just breaks down. And I don't think that's true necessarily for like the rubber tires and stuff like that. But the metal pieces will just like eventually just be gone, just like as if it was never there. And so that the fact that I was getting back to was the only thing that would survive, according to that show, in any real way, would be Mount Rushmore. That would be the only reason or the only thing to like look at in like 5 or 10,000 years to know that people were here, other than the pyramids. So it'd be the pyramids and then Mount Rushmore. So you'd be looking at this thing coming back, or whatever, be like, who the fuck what are those things? Who are these people? But the way that where it is in the landscape, and like how it was built, like carved into a side of a mountain, they think that like it would have some erosion damage, but you would still kind of like, if you look at the Sphinx, like you can tell that was, a head, even though it was built who knows how old that thing is, but you would still have the same thing with Mount Rushmore. You'd have Lincoln, Roosevelt, Jefferson, and Washington, and nobody would know who the fuck they are, but they would survive these 10,000 years.
Yeah, it'd be like, you ever seen Rich Too Rich?
Yeah, I mean, not for a long time.
Yeah, there's like a Mount Rushmore of him, and it was just all corroded because they were shooting laser beams at it.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't think that show factored in laser beams from Richie Rich,
But
but
that's what, like, I just pictured like just like a morphed, deformed Mount Rushmore, and that's what I think of. So that's my brain today.
it's mush. I
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
I feel like I've had laser beams shot into my brain,
Yeah, me too.
but this is,
Um,
go ahead.
I always do love that fact. You've said that before, and it was definitely worth repeating because
Yeah,
uh, that is crazy to think about the world resetting, and then that's the only two things that are left.
yeah, and like on opposite, and it's like the Mayan temples, the Aztec temples, like anything just built out of rock is the only thing that's going to be able to survive. Everything else just kind of gets grown over. Like, just to think about, like, it would take like, I can't remember what, I'm making up the numbers now because I can't exactly remember, but it'd take like 200 years for like the Sears Tower to just collapse and be nothing.
There's videos on YouTube of that too. Like you could see
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
mock grow, like there's like vines and like roots like growing through it and shit,
I
and then
think I think
ultimately it just like kind of crumbles.
I think the Golden Gate Bridge would be like under 20 years, because that thing is just with the weather the way that it is there, and it's like just under constant maintenance now to keep it up as is. That if you just left it alone, it would just fall into that San Francisco Bay. So I mean, it's fucking wild to think about that stuff.
The whole thing's crazy to think about because you just think, all right, just leave it alone. It should be okay. But it's like, no,
Nope.
the weather's a motherfucker.
Yeah. So it always, like, I don't really like believe in some of the stuff we talk about on here, but it's like, it's maybe, and maybe,
Mhm.
but like when you have these 1,000-year-old prophecies talking about how stone rivers and iron snakes and what white skinned people with killing their enemies with thunder, like that is like, if you go 8 for 8, you got my attention. Like, like something. How do you go 8 for 8 on your forecast of the coming apocalypse? And then now we're just waiting for that ninth one, that blue star Kachina, to come down and smash everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a lot of the diagonal streets here, like where like Indians live. I believe I know like there's a street here in my neighborhood that's Forest Reserve Drive, and that was always to my
Yeah.
understanding like
Well, and that's
a road
um,
that they lived on.
like if you go up to like the North Shore, Deer Path. Okay, that was named literally after Deer Path, and it was just became, because deer will walk, and like I learned this from Sydney Wells. like they go in like certain areas. Like this is how they travel. They go through this path, and like nobody, who knows why, but they have certain ways of traveling. It's not just like random. So you can set up your stands, and then that, if you enough deer go through the same area over time, it eventually like becomes like a walking path for people too. And then people just start using that same path because there's not as many trees and you can kind of see through it. And then it's like, let's just put the fucking road there. And that's like kind of how a lot of like that's like the North Shore is like that. And then a lot of the East Coast, like Boston looks like somebody just dropped like a bunch of spaghetti on the map and like let's put the roads there. But it's because that they were these old ancient pre-American Native American paths. Like they can't,
Yeah.
this is just, and then they just started, white people started using them and they just paved over them with stone rivers.
Yeah. The Hopi tribe, man.
Yeah, you seem unconcerned about these people.
No, I mean, what was did you say get into a little bit more of the other one in Babylon? Because I guess if,
The Babylon one that I think is weird is that I don't have all the details of that written down, but it's just like a remarkably similar story about the advanced civilizations that would with flying shields, which that sounds to me like a flying saucer of some kind, and like these wars all over the place. And then it was the whole earth was destroyed by floods. Like that the flood myth thing, that to me is like the one that ties it all together because every single it's like there's two things that appear seemingly all over the world is that it's a flood myth and dragons. Like every single culture in the world has some like Chinese, African, Aztecs, obviously England, Europeans, Roman, whatever. They all have like a dragon myth, and then every single culture from India to the Mayans to the story of Atlantis, everybody, the Bible, they all talk about this massive flood it's like how do people all over the entire world come up with the same story? It's almost like it's impossible, like what if they had said it was a snowstorm? They didn't say it was a snowstorm. They specifically, it was a flood. And so everybody coming up with the same story and they tell the same story over and over for 10,000 years, who knows? That to me means like it's not a myth. Like that's like it means it happened. If
yeah,
all these people all over the world are telling the same story.
yeah, yeah, no, and
Fascinated by this stuff.
if it's just that smoke, there's fire. And then if there's double smoke in two
Yeah.
different fucking
Yeah.
completely different spots, I hear you.
Yeah. And then like when we're talking about like the cities dying, like even like I feel like The Last of Us did like a pretty good job
Yeah,
of showing what it would look like if all of the infrastructure disappeared. And that was like what, 20 years in the
yeah,
future?
that was 20 years, 2003.
Yeah. So that's something we all just take that for granted. Like every single person in the world just takes for granted. Like nobody likes, red lights, but pretty important that they just run. I don't know who's powering those, who's fixing that shit. I don't fucking know. But it's just like all these things that we take for granted just to like walk around without having, the mushroom people from The Last of Us just destroying the entire world. Like we need all those people to keep all this stuff going. And that's like when we talked about like a few months ago, like the birth rate decline, like we're gonna have to have certain people. We're gonna have to have enough people to just keep all this shit running all the time. All this, who knows how the sewer works? No one knows how that works. But it's like so all these things that we just take for granted to make it like easy to live, and no one knows how they work. And then it's like you watch a show like The Last of Us, and I don't think there's going to be some fungus coming out of somebody's nose that turns people crazy, but it could be some sort of cataclysm. Then it's just like we just don't have enough people, so all these cities just collapse. All the
Yeah,
things that we love are gone.
yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see, man.
yeah,
We'll see. That's all you could say.
yeah.
All you can say.
I'm not going to change anything about my life, but it is something I think about. Obviously, we talk about it a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right then, Chief. That's the Hopi tribe.
Yeah, the most fascinating people of Arizona, if you ask me.
Yeah,
Although
four
Arizona
corners.
people struck me a little weird, I gotta say.
Why is that?
They just seem like they're not quite California, but they got like some of that like bro vibe when you're out. And then like the girls are very like everybody's fit. Girls are like tatted up. Um, they like rage, but it seems like they're also like about like doing stuff in nature and being outside and enjoying the weather. It's like
Well, I
I
don't
don't
think any
know.
like not many. That's kind of like a transplant city, right?
Yeah.
Most of the people aren't from there. I mean, I know there's a lot of locals, but the majority are not from there. And it
Yeah.
does have a maybe there is a little crossbreed of California and Texas too.
Yeah.
That's a good
There
way to put
definitely
it.
is. And then I don't know. I had been there in high school to Scottsdale, but I hadn't really been since. And it's I don't know. It's just like a mega suburbia. Like there's no skyline. There's no like we drove from the Coyote Stadium to where the White Sox and Dodgers do spring training. And it's just like perpetual strip malls, and then boom, there's where they hold the Super Bowl, like out of
Mhm.
nowhere. So it's like a very odd looking, and then they have the crazy mountains around, and it's like up close, you're like, there's nothing special. You look in the horizon, it's like this place is beautiful. And it's
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
very, I don't know, it's a weird place. I think it's a pretty weird place.
yeah. No, I hear you. I like it though. It's cool.
Yeah, I liked it too, except for I've been covering my face with chapstick since I got home. Like it's just so dry out there that I don't think I could survive. Like the heat, the dryness, I'd have a hard time in Arizona.
The dry guy,
Yeah.
dry guy. All right then. We could wrap there. Thank you, Chief. Thank
Yep.
you everybody for listening. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow. We will see you then. Also, don't forget, Taxi Driver on Thursday. Make sure you watch it before
Oh,
Thursday's
like that.
episode. Yes.
That'll
Plug.
be
That's
good.
good plugs. Exactly. All right. For
All
real,
right.
goodbye now. We will see you tomorrow.